Shalom, all praises to the Most High, all praises to His holy name. Back again, receiving His promises. For today, I received new mercies. I thank you, Heavenly Father. You know, of course, the devils are out there driving around, following you around, doing devilish stuff, as if their own will supersedes the Most High's word. They don't have the right to supersede my will. At best, they need to try to mind their business. But they're doing wicked things, like I went to the market, and what's in a man's heart come out of his mouth. So as I was in the conversation, you know, they have people there that's trying to lead into conversation, but only thing, they don't want to hear the truth. They want to try to prove to you, or in my case, me, that I'm wrong. And they're going to show me up based on their own understanding. But the Most High said, do not give pearls before swine. So when I see where they're coming from, I just say, well, you know, cool. You got the right to believe that. They do. I'm not going to sit there arguing with them, but I tell them, I say, well, how do you determine the truth? According to the word. This one Christian dude was in the gym, Planet Fitness. Of course, he's sitting there waiting because he know I'm going to get in a conversation with him. So we got in the conversation, then this Mexican dude left the seat all wet and then had the nerve to me and say, hey, man, you know, gave me the idea, but I already told him, I said, I already had that in my mind before you told me. That's still a good thought. You know, to wipe the stuff down when you get finished using it. The only thing, he didn't take heed to his own words. He left it filthy and left it sweaty. And I said, you got to pay for your own sins. I can't make you clean. In reference to why he let that bench soaking wet with his own sweat. So you got to wipe that up. I can't make that clean for you. But yet I said to respect people here and in their business. I said I already had the thought to get a paper towel and disinfect it and wipe it down. That's only right. Not because he made me do it. I already had good faith in my heart to do it. See, but the wicked, they try to make you do stuff as if they teaching you. And trainers and all this stuff on it. But you can't train me unless I ask you to train me. But you can't train me in this word. Why? The Most High already told me how to break down his word and come to the truth. Line by line, precept on precept, here a little, there a little. So the Christian man coming to me talking about the Most High loves all people and quoting scriptures. And because I didn't condemn him, because I used to do the same thing when I thought I was a Christian. So I thought on those things. I said, well, you know, I should do the same thing. I'm not going to condemn this man. But I shared information with him, but he was still trying to force it on me that he's right. I said, man, you got the right to believe what you want to believe. But I believe what I believe. Why? Because I believe in the precepts, the way the Most High told me to come up with the truth of his word. Apparently, you don't do that. I didn't tell him that, though. But I wasn't there to have problems with him. I'm there to work out. But since we were talking about it, I shared with him, and he shared with me what he felt, and what he believed. So I left it at that. You got the right to believe that. Just like I got the right to believe what I believe. And I don't follow you around and harass you and try to persecute you for it. That shows you that you don't believe in the Most High. When you try to persecute somebody to make them believe what you want to believe. You are a Satanist. And that's the truth. So that's what all these people do. They try to make you do what they want you to do based on their own beliefs. They're hypocrites. Because if I share with them what I know to be true based on the precepts, and they share it with me based on one scripture, then the precepts override what they believe. But they got the right to believe what they believe. Therefore, I don't beat them over the head with it. And I don't follow around and then harass them behind it. So then I went to the market. Once again, getting the conversation with people. I said, if you don't want me to talk about it, I won't talk about it out of respect for you. But since we're talking, I'm going to share the word of God according to the precepts. And the precept of the matter is, every man came from Adam. And then it told you out of the people that came from Adam, the ones that came from Adam that came through Seth on down through Isaac and Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were called Negroes. That's substantiated the true Americans. And wherever land else they went, or the Most High drove them to. And then they had the other people that came from Cain, who are not Israelites. Even Webster Dictionary broke that down and told you. So why is it when I tell you the truth, you want to persecute me for it? Just because you got your own mind and your own thoughts. He said, cast down on imaginations. Most High said, I put my word above my own name, above my own names. And then I was walking out, and this lady who says she works for the post office, delivering mail, she said her name was Sterling, like in silver. And I said, that's not your name. She said, Sterling, that's my name. That's all right. All right, that's your name. And then I got a little understanding that I overstand, and she said she understood my point of view based on the truth. She said she understood. Because they had placed my son's mail somehow into my space that I received mail. That's mine. But I told her if it's not mine, I don't accept it. She said she understood. And then I know what the devil is always trying to do. He's always trying to capture one, although he got to release everybody that's American, but he always try to play deceptive games to try to still capture something. And because I'm a righteous father, I said, you're not going to capture any of my children. And that's why I gave you the word. He said, those who honor me, I got the right to protect them. And since they tried to play that game to extrapolate my son, Emmanuel Isaiah Pooler, I rebuked them and I told them, no, he's free. He's an American Israelite. And you pay for his bills too, because they're not his bills. That's yours. She said she understood. So let's read some definitions and some scriptures before I get to the card that they left behind. Told me to send it back to them. I said, no problem. But I got the right to adjust it to benefit me being an American, to show who I am and not subject to you. Possess is an action word, is a verb. Late 14th century, possession, to hold, occupy, inhabit. Without regard to ownership. A back formation from possession, and in part from Old French possessor, to have and hold, take, be in possession of, mid-13th century. From Latin possessus, thus past particle of possessor, to have and hold in one's control, be master of. That's a good point. I'm the postmaster of this document. That's why I got the right to adjust it to fit me. Be master of, own, probably a compound of potus, having power, powerful, able. That's why Cain killed Abel, but he restored our ability through Seth, because he tried to get rid of that power. But the Most High said the more powerful one than Abel. having power, powerful, able. P.3, Padi, powerful, Lord. So Sadir from P.3 said to sit. According to Buck, Latin possessor was a legal term first used in the connection of real estate. The meaning to hold as property in English is recorded from 15th century 1500. That of to seize, take possession of, is from 1520s. Possession is a noun. Mid-14th century, possession, act or fact of holding, occupying, or owning, a taking possession, occupation, also thing possessed, that which is possessed, material or landed property, in plural, goods, lands, or rights owned. And that's all I ask for. What is mine by right? Based on knowledge, with no guile or evil intent. From Old French, possession, fact of seizing, Slakia, fact of having and holding what is possessed. Also, well, I ain't getting into that part. The legal property sense is earliest. Talking about what I just told you about. Psalm 138, 2-4. I will walk towards your holy temple and praise your name for your loving kindness and for your truth. For you have magnified your word above all your name. And that's what they did by necessity. They said natural and inalienable rights come through this God called Yahweh, the God of nature. And that's who my God is, Yahweh. Who I know is loving kindness. Anoki said. And to you all, he's called all law. To hold you off of me and get you away from me. Get you away from me, Satan. Stand on all law and the devil will flee from you. Why? Because they stand on the lie, even Christians. You can't teach me nothing. Know why? Because everything you stand on is a lie. And a lie can't stand. That's why since I know these things, I didn't argue with you. I just let you feel good about what you thought you was teaching me. But you living a lie. And that can't stand. Therefore, I ain't got to worry about liars, even if they live in a lie or acting out a lie. All I got to do is stand in the truth. And that's what I do. In the day when I cried, you answered me and strengthened me with strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth shall praise you. Oh, Yahweh. When they hear the words of your mouth. And that's why you give the words out of his mouth. And you can't do nothing but praise it. Meaning you got to respect it. And follow what he said. Line by line, precept on precept, here a little, there a little. Like he said. Psalm. Let me go back to possession first. What does possession is 9/10 of the law mean? It is a common idiom, but exactly what does possession is 9/10 of the law mean? It means in actual legal terms, or does it have any legal merit at all? The phrase essentially means that when you physically possess something, you have a stronger legal claim to it than someone who just claims ownership of it. Same thing I just read through possession through etymology online. And then you have to go by Allah. He said, this is my land. Why? Because I'm from the house of Joseph and the tribe of Ephraim, an American Israelite. So what I claim is mine on this land, particularly if it's my right to have it. And I ain't lying to you. And you can't subjugate me in no way, form, or fashion. And I still ain't lying to you. Psalm 138, 2-4. I will worship towards your holy temple and praise your name for your loving kindness and for your truth. For you have magnified your word above all your name. In the day when I cried, you answered me and strengthened me with strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth shall praise you, O all law, when they hear the words of your mouth. And I'm telling you, the words just come out of his mouth. Psalm 119, 89-96. Forever, O all law, your word is settled in heaven. Your faithfulness is unto all generations. You have established the earth and it abideth. They continue this day according to your ordinances for all your servants. Unless your law had been my delight, I should have perished in my affliction. I will never forget your precepts, for with them you have quickened me. That's why I'm a quickening spirit, because the Most High, the first Adam was a living soul, and the second Adam is a quickening spirit called Yahweh. And I will never forget your precepts, for with them you have quickened me. I am yours, save me, for I have sought your precepts. And that's the only way you're going to be saved, through his precepts, to get the knowledge that you need so you won't be the people, he says, my people are destroyed for lack of these knowledge through these precepts. And those who fear me, I gave them a book of remembrance so they can rest while getting the rest of the knowledge. The wicked have waited for me to destroy me. That's what they out there doing every time I come outside. But they can't fade me. Why? I'm standing on the precepts with the truth. And they standing on the lie. Therefore, they can't stand. The wicked have waited for me to destroy me, but I will consider your testimonies. I've seen the end of all perfection, but your commandments is exceedingly broad. Genesis 1:26, and all law said, let us make man in our image. The difference between man, according to the books of remembrance, and others called man is the ones in his image. I'm in his image, both my body and my spirit. And the ones in his image has this power. And our law said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and of the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth on the earth. And then the Roman Catholic Pope, private attorney, had to confess, which was the confession of the Roman Catholic Pope, who has a power over that corporation because he owns it, had to confess to the same thing. So I'm going to read what they confessed by necessity. And I still ain't lying to you. end of 40 years of European meddling and predation in America. It's going to go to the, and I went up to the market. They had this maritime flag hanging up. I ain't never seen that there before. Then you know the devil playing games again. So based on the things I'm saying, that I'm saying in truth, they feel like they got the right to cheat me based on if they don't agree with what I'm saying. And this is the receipt. Because I told them I object to it. And I told them that you got to stop playing games with me because I'm not under maritime jurisdiction. I got sovereignty everywhere. And you got to get returned everything you stole from me. And even though you keep trying to steal from me, you got to add 4 times back to that and still give it back to me. That's why I'm not sweating you. Because everybody heard me say on the record that I object to you trying to cheat me. And they putting people behind the counters that only have name tags to show they representing being working there. They don't work there. They're devils that's taking over to try to cheat me. And I recognize you and I call you out and I rebuke you and I hold you accountable. And I object to your bad faith action. Everybody heard me say. That's my receipt. Even though you still try to cheat me. That's okay. You got to give it back to me. 4 times if you take it. Because everybody heard me say it. The Constitution for the United States of America, the true Americans who are the Israelites, was saved. And I mentioned that too because they had that maritime flag there on the record. And everybody heard me. And I said, you got to stop trying to play games with me like that because I'm already sealed in heaven. You can't keep on trying to cheat me and try to take me back out based on your own thoughts and evil deeds. I object to it. And you got to pay me 4 times what you take. The Constitution for the United States of America was saved. Not the maritime law. That passed away. And a new foundation begun. The American Israelites are now free to come home to the land they were removed from. No longer POWs. They have regained their sovereignty as free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land. The United States of America and the free, sovereign, and independent people living on the land of the organic states have regained their sovereignty in the international jurisdiction of the sea. Override your maritime. For the first time since 1789, Americans are in full control of both their natural land and sea jurisdiction. He taught the American Israelites. Called Zion. We are finally whole. Do not follow any orders to harm Americans, American Israelites. Those who do will be tried for war crimes and face the death penalty just like the Nazis at Nuremberg. Second Chronicles 7:14-16. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, And if you claim to be his people and you try to cheat me, you ain't his people. You sinners, you wicked. Because he said, love your brother as yourself. And if you love me, you wouldn't cheat me. Just because I'm standing on the truth and you want to stand on a lie. You're wicked. You're the one going to get cheated, not me. Because everything you cheat me for is on the record. Now I know they got to give it back to me 4 times. What they take. Even if they got to take it from you to give it to me. Why? Because you wicked. That's why I said the wicked have stored up righteous, stored up wealth for the righteous. So I'm not worried about you. Wicked. I had a great day, and I'm still having a great day until a brighter and brighter and brighter day. As he promised. And you can't do nothing about it. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent unto the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever. And my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. Genesis 1:26, and all law said, let us make the Israelite man in our image, woman and child, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And that's why the Roman Catholic Pope had to acknowledge this and agree to it, and confess by necessity. And I said, I ain't lied to you. Joel 2:27, and you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, as I am the Almighty God of Israel, and none else. And my people should never be ashamed. Isaiah 14:1-9. For Allah will have mercy, Anoki said, on Jacob. For Allah will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. That's why I said Jacob's going to be a flame, and Ephraim should be, Jacob going to be a fire, and Ephraim, the people that's dwelling with Jacob, once coming back to the knowledge, we're going to be on a greater flame called fire. We're going to be a flame, not just fire. We're going to be on flame. Flame on. Why? Because we came back to the Father and know who we are now. And that's why we clinging to the first book, the Southern Kingdom. But the Northern Kingdom are going to rule. Because that's my firstborn, called Ephraim. These are the strangers. There's not strangers any longer. We're not POWs any longer. We back home. Sovereign. With all power in our hand. And I'm walking, he said, for the kingdom of God shall not be by observation, but in power. That's why I'm walking according to his word and what they already acknowledge, and I'm walking in that power. I'm not just talking. Why? I got good faith. I believe. He said, show me a man to believe, and show me, I will show you his faith. Because it's impossible to have faith without believing. You can only believe by when you show the action that you believe. That's called faith. And I got good faith backed by his word and by their words. This by necessity. That's why I'm walking in confidence, in good faith, in good favor with God and man. And I said, I ain't lie. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of all law for their servants and handmaids. And it shall take them captives, whom captives they were. And they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and from the hard bondage wherein you was made to serve. So I don't know why you people following me around like you can judge me or something, like you got the ability to stop me from receiving anything, or that you can judge me. You can't. You judging yourself. You need to repent because you're wicked. You going all against his word. He said, I place my word above my own name. So the fact that you're trying to do that, that means you're trying to put yourself among God. That makes you a devil. That means you're wicked. That you shall take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how has the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Allah has broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. I usually don't read all that, but he told me to read it today. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nation in anger is persecuted, and none hide hinder it. He says, your turn to be persecuted. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They broke forth into singing. See, that's what I told you. Zion is going from a day to a brighter day. I even said that in the market today. But I'm already free and I'm already sovereign. This is going to get better from here for Zion. The whole earth is at rest and it's quiet. They break forth into singing. That don't mean that the wicked is at rest. They ain't gonna never be at rest. But Zion is at rest. Yeah, the fir trees rejoice at you. And the cedars of Lebanon saying, since you are laid down, no feller has come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for you to meet you at your coming. It stirred up the dead for you. And they are the dead that stirred up. Even all the chief ones of the earth. It is raised up for their thrones and all the kings of the nations. Isaiah 9:6-7. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be on his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government is getting brighter and brighter every day, until the brightest day. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom to order. That's why I'm ordering it. To establish it with judgment and with justice. That's his word. It's above his own name, which is the law, all law. From henceforth, even forever, the zeal of Yahweh, all law of hosts will perform it. This is his word. And that's why I was able to tell him to do not bother my children, like he told you in the sealed portion, chapter 27. Why? They sovereign too. They're Americans and they're Israelites. But this is the word that they got to adhere to. Because they already chose the other side with their own free will and not ignorant. If they know they did this on purpose, then they got to deal for themselves. But you can't hold them captives if they didn't know these things. And I'm protecting them with this word. Ephesians 6, 1 through 8. Children, and they're grown now, but they're still my offspring, my progeny. So they're still my children. I'm the elder over the house, called Pula. Ephesians 6, 1 through 8. Children, obey your parents in Yahweh, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, and you may live long on the earth. And you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of Yahweh. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh. And I happen to be your master now. Not in arrogance, but in word and deed. Why? I'm the Melchizedek priesthood to order it. But I'm not a tyrant. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of your heart, as unto the Messiah. Not with eye service, as men pleasers, but as the servants of the Messiah, doing the will of God from the heart, all law. With good will, doing good faith service, doing service as to Yahweh and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of Yahweh, whether he be bond or free. That's why I can cover my children as long as they honor me. And you can't subjugate them. Matter of fact, pay for all their bills. It's not their bills anyway. It's yours. As well as you pay for mine. And I'm here to order it according to Scripture, according to what's right. And I said, I ain't lied to you. That's why I said the powers are only to be feared if you're wicked. But if you're doing these things against the Most High's will, who is all powerful, and his prophets in Zion, then you should fear. Even the power who said don't touch us. By necessity, gonna make sure you pay for it. That's why I say don't follow any orders to harm the American Israelites. So I'm gonna read once again the final judgment and civil orders given that they brought forth April 11, 2014. With the proper adjustments that agrees with the Most High, not limited to, but including these. You have the absolute right to rescind your signature from any contract that was not fully disclosed to you. Such a contract is null and void, as if it never existed at all. And all payments and other asset distributions exercised under it are subject to return to the lawful owners plus reasonable interest. And the Most High said, 4 times what you're taking. You are not obligated by any contract obtained under conditions of fraud, deceit, or non-disclosure. The state is culpable for its failure to disclose. Any demand that you produce a marriage license as a prerequisite to access services and benefits to which you are otherwise entitled, such as medical insurance coverage for your spouse, are illegal monopoly inducements. This is just that tip of the iceberg. And since she is the private attorney for the Roman Catholic Pope, that's why she entitled this like this. In the presence of all law, Pope Francis in the world, that's what Pope Francis, that office that he was over, including that great city, was over, we call Adnumia, the world. Let it be known to all living and dead, to all those responsible for administration of the affairs of the living and dead, that all commercial contracts ever actually or presumably existing between the living man known to the public as whoever you are, if you're a true American Israelite, no matter how it's spelled. Because you own that. You own those names. And that's why I told them when they asked me about the name, I said, yeah, I own them. But you're looking at the man. But I do own those names. That's insignia. And the fact the ones that I work for, even though it wasn't insignia, is insignia now because it's talking about me. Distinguished from my son who was a junior. Meaning he comes after me. He's still a king. According to the word, he just got to keep the commandments and honor me, like the Most High said. All my children, they got to honor me in order for me to cover them. And I intend to cover them. Except the ones that's been disrespectful to me and not honoring me. You let your God cover you. And the living woman known to the public, whoever that living woman is, that's an American Israelite, and their assembly name estates and privately held American Express and Inter Vivos Trust and the following incorporated entities: the United States of America Minor, which is the corporation, the city-state of Westminster, United Nations, United States, Federal Reserve, it's telling this spelled different. International Monetary Fund, IMF, and all their respective franchises, agencies, and departments, including the state of Alaska and state of Alaska, state of California and state of California, are all and uniformly invalidated for some Semitic deceit and non-disclosure. That's why I say I'm a de jure American and a de jure Californian. All signatures of the living man and woman are rescinded from all documents in the possession of any of these incorporated entities which claim or seek to claim any beneficial commercial interest in them. See, they can only treat us with good faith. The bad faith has already been erased from all documents. And I still hold you liable because you're still trying to do it, even though you already confessed to it. And you're doing it where everybody can see you, making yourself naked. That's why I object to it publicly. Still following me around, harassing me. That's because you're wicked. And I object to it. All signatures of the living man and woman are rescinded from all documents in the possession of any of these incorporated entities which claim or seek to claim any beneficial commercial interest in them or their estates, or which claim any representative capacity related to them or their estates whatsoever. All interests, good faith service, and accrual on investment owed to the living people as the beneficiaries and entitlement holders of their own estates is due and owed to them and their heirs without exception or prejudice by the officers and administrators of the United States of America Minor, the corporation, the city-state of Westminster, and the United Nations. But it is also known that these and other individual Americans now exercise their birthright upon the land of the organic states united by the Articles of Confederation, 1781, and that they have the full and unimpeded right to act as judges of these organic states. That's why I told you concerning me, I'm the postmaster. To issue orders related to their administration. Isaiah 9, 6-7 to order. And that they have the full and unimpeded right to act as judges of these organic states, to issue orders related to their administration, and to demand compliance with all articles of the National Trust Indenture and Commercial Service Contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America. The sealed portion. And I explained to the man that I didn't force it on him. I said, but consider. He said, no, all right, he already good what he had. I said, well, I was just sharing information. Because I was telling him that this is what this sealed portion is about. It's not the Mormon Church Incorporated, but this is the Northern Kingdom's history of Joseph and his tribes called Ephraim and half tribe Manasseh. The sealed portion 81 and 41, but in the beginning it was not so. And I've shown unto you that the record of my fathers shall come forth unto Joseph, and he shall translate the part which is unsealed and publish it to the world, so that all may know of the works of the Heavenly Father, which was wrought upon the land of Eden, which is this promised land, which should be called in the latter days the United States of America. Be it also known that these and other individual Americans now exercise their birthright upon the land of the organic states united by the Articles of Confederation in 1781, and that they have the full and unimpeded right to act as judges of these organic states, to issue orders related to their administration, and to demand compliance with all the articles of the National Trust Indenture and Commercial Service Contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America, and all related international treaty provisions owed to us by the United States of America Minor, the corporation, and the United Nations and the city-state of Westminster, and any successors, executors, administrators, corporate officers, elected or appointed officials, trustees, agents, agencies, franchises, franchise operators, and employees thereof, now and in perpetuity. It says, to all concerned and all recipients of final notice dated February 3rd, 2014. Final judgment and civil orders. 55 days have passed without any sworn affidavit in rebuttal of the facts presented by the final notice of commercial and administrative default. This is to you people, not us. The Most High said we're already sovereign, and you committed, and you already acknowledged it. And speaking for myself, I'm sovereign. You already said I am. Which agreed to the Most High said I am. And I said they lied to you. And I ain't got to act a certain way to prove it to you. I just am. "55 days have passed without any sworn affidavit in rebuttal of the facts presented by the final notice of commercial and administrative default issued to the individual persons and the institutions responsible for default. All have been promptly and properly notified of misadministration of the public trust established in the names of living Americans, however they spell, and their organic American states by incorporated entities doing business as the United States of America, Inc. and the United States, Inc., and their trustees, officers, employees, and agents who are under contract to provide governmental services to those harmed. And you're still trying to harm. And I already told you I object to it. Therefore, you got to give me back 4 times what you take. And your share said you're liable. And knowing y'all probably tried to cheat me with my truck. And if you did, then just tell my son to bring me my real one. And I'll get that one back to you. Because I'm not going to take no shorts for your bad faith actions. That's not being greedy. That's not being ungrateful. That's just I know you. You're a devil. So I'm just calling you out on it. If you try to cheat me, give me what is mine by right. Because I'm not going to stand for you cheating me or cheating my children, particularly the ones who honor me, according to the scriptures. And I still ain't lied to you. All have been properly notified of the misadministration of the public trust established in the names of living Americans in the organic American states by incorporated entities doing business as the United States of America, Inc. And the United States, Inc. and their trustees, officers, employees, agents who are under contract to provide governmental services to those harmed. See, these services are supposed to be provided for me and for my children and for all the American Israelites in Zion. But as for me and my house, we're going to serve the law, all law. Yahweh, the God of nature, the God of Israel and Israel only. Under law of the sea, the claims and demands presented by the final notice of commercial and administrative default dated February 3rd, 2014 are decided and are now in permanent settlement. They stand as fact in law. Therefore, why you got a maritime flag hanging in the market where you still trying to cheat? And everybody saw it. And I told you all I'll hold you accountable. On the record. Notice of the motu proprio used by Pope Francis, acting as trustee of the Global Estate Trust on July 11, 2013, has been presented to all directly interested parties in California and everywhere via ancient edict of notice. Notice to principal is notice to agent, and notice to agent is notice to principal. The United States of America Minor and the Federal Reserve Banks, DBA, the United States of America Inc., and the United Nations City-State, and its agency, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, DBA, United States Inc., and its States of Alaska franchise are commanded and required under contract to the Global Estate Trust to perform according to the Constitution for the United States of America, and to cease and desist action against the American people and their organic American states, including Californians and every organic state, Alaskans, and the Alaska state created by the Alaska Statehood Compact. The California Bar Association and all the bar associations, including Alaska, its members, the various courts administrators, and all of the organic states including those operating as corporations, the Judicial Council have been similarly notified in order to cease and desist practices, presumptions, and procedures which serve to defraud living Americans and lay false claims against their private property assets under pretense of war and color of law. That's why they told us by necessity, we're not under, we're no longer POWs. We're no longer under color of law. I'm not. And I still ain't lied to you. The entities addressed under final notice of commercial and administrative default dated February 3rd, 2014 are all competent to recognize their culpability and failure to perform under commercial and service contract, failure to honor the national and state trust indentures, and failure to provide full and free disclosure of contracts solicited by the named governmental services corporations and agencies cited for default. Absent of full disclosed and actual maritime contract, entered in evidence and subjected by the court to examination upon discussion, no valid contract can be resumed to exist. And no American estate or other vessel can be prosecuted under any maritime or admiralty jurisdiction. See, you put yourself back in naked again by putting the admiralty flag in the market on the wall. At Stater Brothers here in what they call Ontario, California. No contract based on unilateral, uninformed, undisclosed, or otherwise prejudicial claims of residency. See, that's another reason why I changed this to represent me, because I'm not your resident. I'm not a resident of Britain or Rome or England or any other such place. I'm a true American, de jure. American Israelite or Israelite American, same thing. No contract based on unilateral and uninformed, undisclosed, or otherwise prejudicial claims of residency, benefits, status, license, mortgage, or other contract lacking true equitable consideration. And consent can be maintained with regard to the estates of Americans who are living inhabitants of the land and air jurisdictions of the global estate trust and not naturally subject to the jurisdiction of the sea. All such Americans who are inhabitants of the land and their estates are additionally protected by treaty and national trust and are owed safe conduct for themselves and their commercial vessels on the high seas and navigable inland waterways. For military tribunal purposes, all Americans, American persons, and commercial vessels are non-combatant civil third parties. All provost marshals, all members of the civilian police forces, all members of the American military, all members of state-operated National Guard units, all members of government agencies, including the U.S. Marshal Service, FBI, state troopers, BLM, BTF, IRS, and other code enforcement agents are ordered to recognize the civil authority of the organic 50 states created by statehood compacts and united under the Articles of Confederation, to also recognize the absolute civil authority of the American people, inhabiting these organic and geographical described states in all matters pertaining to them and the administration of their domestic government on the land known as the United States of America Major, America, the Garden of Eden. Not to be confused with the United States of America Minor, which is a foreign maritime entity under commercial contract to provide governmental services for the United States of America Major, the American. All police and military, and that ain't something that I got to prove to you every time I go somewhere. You just got to automatically just do it. In good faith. All police and military officers are obligated to honor the law of the land. And in all dealings with are pertaining to organic states and their living inhabitants without exception. Noting that these people and states are who are owed the terms and conditions of the original equity contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America, are to be addressed under the American common law exclusively. And as they retain their natural and inalienable rights, including their natural identity, property rights, and controlling interests without prejudice, and regardless of fraud and monopoly inducements practiced against them, and breach of trust and contract default. All actions of the various probate courts operating in maritime jurisdictions and merely presumed death based upon the inaction of Americans, beneficiaries of the American Republic, and serving to establish maritime salvage liens against their estates, are by these orders invalidated, made null and void. All Americans whose names and estates were presently included on tax rolls and who are recorded by census data, school records, birth certificates, and other public documents must be presumed to be alive and competent in the absence of a properly sworn death certificate signed by the local coroner stating the cause of death. Date, time, and place. Corroborated by at least 2 responsible and knowledgeable living witnesses. In the case of legitimately missing people, diligent search and full disclosed publication of all claims against their estates must be made by giving notice to the last known address and next of kin. Any contrary presumption or practice is fraudulent, null and void. Any action of the probate courts operating in maritime jurisdiction and making claim upon actual real assets of severally named Americans in behalf of legal fiction missing persons owned by the United States of America, Inc., United States Federal Reserve, or any franchise or agencies thereof, are similarly rendered null and void. Once created legal fictions do not have any necessary or valid estate. Such estate as they may legitimately be granted must be obtained under conditions of fully revealed and disclosed contract, entered into voluntarily and with explicit individual understanding and consent. Any estate obtained by legal fiction entities by process of semantic deceit or undisclosed contract belongs in fact and law to those defrauded. These civil orders command and require the return of all titles to land, homes, properties, and businesses which have been held under color of law by the Federal Reserve doing business as the United States of America, Inc., and their bankruptcy trustee, the Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico, and their administrative agents, including custodians of alien property and Controller General. All separate registrations under the Shepard-Tower Act and the Selective Service Act of the Americans and their progeny by agents of the United States of America Minor, DBA, the United States of America Inc. That's why I told you to do not violate my children through your deceitful practices. She's telling you not to do it as well. Speaking for that Roman Catholic Pope. For our doom, the world. All separate registrations under the Shepard-Tower Act and the Selective Service Act of Americans and their progeny by agents of the United States of America Minor, DBA, the United States of America Inc., and its various state franchises as subsequently maintained by state franchises of the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund, are invalid as a class for anything but traditional recording purposes. And the benefit of any securities based on whole or in part upon these and any other involuntary, undisclosed registrations, such as vehicle registrations or private property benefiting the individual American, who are the lawful entitlement holders of all commercial vessels operated under their given names by any corporation providing governmental services, including banks. All vessels in commerce, so she just told you right there, you don't need no driver's license or nothing like that. Anything that can identify you, including your image, the bank still got to give you your money. If it's your money. And she just told you it is, being an American Israelite. I can use the issued honorable badge they gave me to go get whatever's mine out of their banks. That's mine. She just told you that. I don't need no license or any of the things that you're trying to use against me. And I ain't lied to you. On the record. Or private property benefiting the individual American, who are the lawful entitlement holders of all commercial vessels operated under their given names by any corporation providing governmental services, including banks. All vessels in commerce operated under the name of Americans are owed full treaty and trusteeship obligations from the United States of America Minor and the United Nations and all franchises and agencies which these nation states operate worldwide. She said, this is worldwide. American Israelite can go anywhere in the world and still be sovereign. And that goes for all the Israelites. Why? Because they're the Most High's children. That's why he calling them back home to America before he sends them away with their inheritance to their lands of promise. These civil orders command performance, deliverance unto Caesar upon the land, including return of all real assets and property owed to Americans, free of claim, debt, and encumbrance created under conditions of fraud, breach of trust, and breach of commercial contract. Have I lied to you? I ain't lied to you. All judges, attorneys, clerks, and other employees of incorporated courts and court systems, together with international bank employing them, who have knowingly failed to fully and freely disclose their nature, identity, status, and this is not something I got to prove to you. If I walk into your bank anywhere else and show you who I am and not defraud you, you got to give me service. If I walk into your bank with a check issued to me that's mine by right, even through my retirement, you can't play games with me. You got to give me my money. Have I lied to you? No, I have not lied to you. I just read it to you. And my son does the same. Yeah, I give it to him and he'll bring it to me. But I still got the right to go there myself if I want to. All judges, attorneys, clerks, and other employees of incorporated courts and court systems, together with the international banks employing them, who have knowingly failed to fully and freely disclose their nature, identity, status, jurisdiction, standing, and venue, are subject to international criminal prosecution for felony fraud. And that's why I asked the lady at the market. I said, you ain't got no badge on? And you got a maritime flag hanging there. And she refused to tell me who she was, other than her name. And then she cheated me. All judges, attorneys, clerks, and other employees of incorporated courts and court systems, together with international banks employing them, who have knowingly failed to fully and freely disclose their nature, identity, status, jurisdiction, standing, and venue, are subject to international criminal prosecution for felony fraud under full commercial liability. And officers of the law and military officers who enforce illegal actions ordered by these in-house international commercial tribunals against Americans at the request of any such court are responsible for war crimes committed against non-combatant civilians as of September 1st, 2013. All politicians and trust management organization employees acting directly or via franchise or agency who have been elected or appointed to private corporate offices within governmental service corporations, their franchises or agencies, and who have knowingly pretended to occupy public offices of the American organic states and who have transgressed beyond their limited and private authority are fully liable for impersonating American public officials while acting as private corporate officers. All federal and federal franchise, state and state employees who have willfully and knowingly conspired to misinform, mislead, mortgage, indebt, extort credit from, and otherwise undermine the material interests of Americans, Israelites, that's what Americans are, via non-disclosure, fraud, racketeering, force of arms, extortion, compulsion, semantic deceit, and constructive unlawful conversion, are guilty of international war crimes against unarmed and non-combatant civilian inhabitants of the land and against commercial vessels belonging by birthright and copyright to those inhabitants. The United States of America Minor, the corporation, and the city-state of Westminster and its franchises, employees, and agents are ordered to comply with all stipulations and limitations required by the original equity contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America when addressing Americans. He said, this is something you got to do. You ain't got to I ain't got to prove none of you. You just got to give me that good faith service. That includes all the American Israelites who's keeping the Most High's commandments. Because the Most High gonna make sure you keep, make sure you do what's right for His. Those who are loyal to Him. The United States of America Minor and the city-state of Westminster and its franchises, employees, and agents are ordered to comply with all the stipulations and limitations required by the original equity contract known as the Constitution for the United States of America when addressing Americans and providing any and all government services to Americans inhabiting the land of the domestic geographically defined 50 states. They are likewise commanded to release all titles and claims held under color of law against the estates of the Americans and the American states and Americans, people, inhabiting the organic states of the Union. All incorporated governmental services, organizations must immediately cease all actions against the material interests of their employers and creditors, the American states and the American people, the Israelites, and settle all accounts. That's why the Most High said His word is settled in heaven. These accounts are settled in heaven. And all the wealth of the wicked is stored up in the treasury for the righteous, the American Israelites, who keeps His commandments. And the ones that's loyal to all law, Yahweh. There are no so-called war powers allowed to any member of Congress representing the United States of America major, which has remained at peace since 1865. Likewise, there are no emergency powers granted by any of the organic states, no indefinite detainment provisions applicable to any American under the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012 or any similar act of Congress. And then all this in the Library of Congress, including the Book of Mormon, the sealed portion, the Apocrypha, and all of the documents that's called the Scriptures of all law. All these is in the Library of Congress. And they know I'm not lying, and I ain't lying. All acts of Congress undertaken without full commercial liability and not fully enacted as public law apply only to the employees and citizens of the United States of America minor. And no claim of employment or U.S. citizenship made by the United States of America minor against any inhabitant of the land of the 50 states can be maintained on the basis of undisclosed, unilateral, or secondary party contract, or presumption of violation of the actual American public law governing U.S. citizenship, U.S. statute at large too. See, they don't have authority if you allow them to have authority because you want to be their subject. But by not being American, these things don't apply to me or you, American Israelite. That's why the seal portion said Satan has power of his own domain, and the Messiah has power over his domain. And the Most High, all law, got power over all domain. That's what I mean by being joint heirs with the Messiah. Was make you, he said, didn't think it was not he thought it not to be, what's that scripture say? To be equal with God. That's what he mean by that. When you on the Christ side, loyal to him, you become all law. Only subject to all law and not man. Not man-made law. Thought it not robbery, but they're equal with God. But made himself no reputation. Being joint heirs with the Messiah. Any deliberate or Semitic use of the given name of any living individual, man or woman, by any incorporated entity, pretending to represent them of their material interests, to create legal fiction entities operated under, in, or for their name without the full knowledge and consent of that individual, is a prohibited abuse of right of usurper. All such acts, proposals, programs, and agencies created by the United Nations and by the United States of America Minor, addressed to Americans, seeking to conscript, obligate, endept, misinform, or entrap them into any contract whatsoever in which the identity and true nature of the parties is obscured, not in kind, or within the actual terms, claims, conditions, and results of contracts, are not made explicit, plain, and fully revealed, or null and void ab initio, as if they never were. All representations serving to misappropriate the good faith and credit of Americans and their organic states in favor of any incorporated entity are self-interested, null and void. All registrations, licenses, application processes, and similar devices used by the Federal Reserve, DBA United States of America, Inc., and International Monetary Fund, DBA United States, and the Federal Reserve, now operating as an entity incorporated under the United Nations auspices, and their various agencies and state franchises are fraudulent, null and void, contrary to public law of the United States of America Major and the individual free states. Any undeclared agent of the United States of America Minor or the United Nations caught soliciting such contracts will be arrested, prosecuted, and deported, and no further enforcement of such contracts will be allowed on the soil of the United States of America Major, here in Eden, against any birthright inhabitant of the land, the American Israelite. Somebody said, I ain't never heard that term before. I'm sharing it with you. And I ain't lied to you. Such foreign, repugnant, and misrepresented commercial contracts include, but are not limited to, vehicle registrations, driver's licenses. So I don't need none of these things to get what's mine by right. And the reason you tried to prevent me, you was acting in bad faith and deception. Everything she said you shouldn't be doing. I got the right, if I got the money, and I really don't need the money, according to her, I can just go and sign off on it, or autograph it, and walk and drive off in it. That's my right as good faith servant. But let's say if I did go use some money, I got the right to use money and drive off in whatever I want to drive off in, and you can't stop me or obligate or subjugate me and say I got to give you a driver's license to show you this or show you that. Now you acting in bad faith, and you using war crime against me and those who are true Americans, the Israelites. Any undeclared agent of the United States of America minor or the United Nations caught soliciting such contracts will be arrested, prosecuted, and deported. And no further enforcement of such contracts will be allowed. Any undeclared agent of the United States of America minor or the United Nations caught contracts will be arrested, prosecuted, and deported, and no further enforcement of such contracts will be allowed on the soil of the United States of America, a major here in America called Eden, against any birthright inhabitant of the land, the American Israelite, that you call black, African American, colored, etc., who the Most High calls Israelite. Such foreign, repugnant, and misrepresented commercial contracts include, but not limited to, vehicle registrations, driver's licenses, marriage licenses, voter registrations, applications for welfare, or medical or insurance benefits, including Social Security insurance, claims of foreign citizenship, and how you do that, calling yourself a United States citizen, a foreign personage, residency, that's why I'm not your resident, mortgages, and public employee retirement benefits. And I still ain't lied to you. Parents are not enabled to in-depth pledge, conscript, or otherwise enter their children in any form of bondage, debt, peonage, or enslavement. So if they tell you to go sign on a birth certificate, they can't claim your child as being their slave, because they shouldn't be telling you to do that anyway. The child don't know no better, and in most cases, the mother don't either, unless they read these things. But most of them haven't. Parents are not enabled to in-depth pledge, conscript, or otherwise enter their children in any form of bondage, debt, peonage, or enslavement. Any and all relinquishments of individual or parental rights must be voluntary, fully disclosed, completely enumerated, fully discussed, and the real natures and actual identities of all parties to any custodial, commercial, or grant contract of any kind whatsoever. Like any agency appointment, must in all details be fully revealed and disclosed, explicitly discussed, explicitly agreed upon, and voluntarily entered into by all parties. Any contract failing these requirements and merely being presumed to exist via tacit agreements, third-party representation, or presumed benefits are null and void. She's telling you that they can't make you be a slave. They can't claim you as subjects. Even if they try to through deception, it's on them, not you. Only thing they can do to an American Israelite here in Zion is good faith actions and service. These civil orders require that all law enforcement and military officers currently in the employment of the United States of America minor, the city-state of Westminster, and the United Nations, together with their commercial companies under contract to provide services within the 50 states united, be fully and freely informed of these facts and the limitations that are fully applicable to them in their operations on American soil. All Americans are to be considered non-combatant. third parties without exception. That's why I said don't touch an American Israelite. Who are owed peace and protection and performers of all commercial contracts, treaties, trust indentures, and agreements entered into the global state of trust and state trust and its members, franchises, and agencies. These civil orders also require that corporate administrative tribunals being operated as courts of any kind explicitly and fully declare their identities, natures, venues, services, ownerships, and proper jurisdictions in plain, explicit, fully revealed language with no further purpose of evasion, obstruction, or lack of good faith service. They are additionally commanded to scrupulously observe their limitations and to clearly state their foreign jurisdiction whenever addressing Americans. Otherwise, you go to one of their courts, they got to tell you, really, they got to bow down to you and not convict you of anything except you violate the word of God. All law. Love your brother as yourself. These civil orders come without the United States of America minor, without the United Nations, without the city-state of Westminster, without representation, and without prejudice. And those are the agent, and those are the principal, and those are the principal, and those are the agents. She gave a lot of information, man, but I already gave you the most important stuff. I told you it's not limited to that, though. But their word is not law. This is what they admitted and acknowledged to have to do. The Most High word is law. And they already said we're sovereign. That covers it. See, they think that you still got to go every word they say. That's not how it is. He said every tongue shall confess to his truth. He ain't coming down to what they lies. That's why I told you what I told you, and I said not limited to these. I'm just looking over some things. Just going over a certain thing there, they acknowledge. Let's see. It says, what is convertible debt? A convertible debt is any form of debt that can be converted into another form of debt. Federal Reserve notes can be converted into mortgage, stocks, bonds, and notes. Any other debt instrument or debt-based security. A fraudulent convertible debt is a debt that is created by fraud and then converted. That's what has been going on in America right now. But she also told you, she said, the true Americans, and I already let them know this based on knowledge that she already provided. I told them to convert the debt note into real money. So anytime I spend that note, they had to convert it to real money. And when they get, and that means even that note in my hand is real money. The juror money. It said, pull up the Bankruptcy Act and look at section 101 and 11. There you will see who the actual creditors of the trust management company FDR bankrupted in 1933 are. The living people, Americans at the time, and their heirs are the priority check creditors and entitlement holders. Because the monopoly inducement explained in item 5, you've all been arbitrarily redefined as debtors instead. What happens when you pay an electric bill addressed to the Federal Franchise Estate Trust, currently doing business under your name as a franchise of the United States, Inc.? And see that all these names been given back to us. That's why we really should have to be paying no debts. And she said, we don't have to. They supposed to pay them. And that's why I ordered them to pay them. And now she's giving you confessions of that truth. So you become a debtor instead of a creditor so long as you pay it in Federal Reserve notes. The utility company seizes these debts notes you so graciously provided to them for free and converts them into other forms of debt, buying up stocks, bonds, insurance policies, etc., benefiting itself. She already said they can't do that. That's fraud. They said everything they got to do is in good faith for the true American Israelites. And ain't nothing we got to do to prove it. They just supposed to do it. And I'll give you the knowledge that she confessed to. The debt thus created is fraudulent on 3 counts. First, it is by the product of illegal monopoly inducements and forcing you to use Federal Reserve notes as federal tender in the first place. Second, it is a debt owed by the Federal Franchise Estate Trust doing business in your name, but deceitfully presented to you as if it were your debt. And third, you have been coerced to pay off a billing statement instead of a real bill. So we have a debt created by fraud, converted into other forms of debt, benefiting, in this example, a utility company which reinvests your Federal Reserve notes in other forms of debt. That is fraudulent convertible debt in practice. This is yet another way in which you are being defrauded, and the value of your labor and other resources are being converted to benefit incorporated entities at the expense of you and your private estate. Next time you get a bill, a utility bill, a credit card bill, or any other bill addressed to your name, see, now it's not only in all capitals. They use all kind of ways now. That's why she said they had to give it all your name back to you without any debt encumbrances, any such thing. Look at it very closely with understanding that, one, the item is addressed to a Puerto Rican Federal Franchise Estate Trust doing business in your name, not to you. The item is a billing statement or a billing summary or some other name, but never an actual bill, so technically, even the estate has not been billed. These billing statements are not denoted in dollars, except occasionally by mistake. The amount owed appears as a series of numbers, commas, and dots similar to that used to write. That's why I told them when they was using that against my son. When they put it in my private box where I can receive my mail, if it's my mail. And they sent it a bill in his name talking about 3 days is gonna cut off service. And I told the lady there, she said her name was Sterling Silver. Then she said, it's not silver, but it's sterling, like sterling silver. And I said, well, I object to it, Sterling. And she said she understood. And I said, don't cut off any of my any of my services, nor cut off any of my son's services. After all, you presented in his name. So she understood that. And now, since they're confessing these things, neither my bill, neither my services, nor his services, nor any of my children's services will be cut off. And I'm telling you the truth, based on knowledge. Matter of fact, they're going to pay my children's bills. It's not my children's bill anyway, it's theirs. And they're going to pay my bill, which is not my bill, it's their bills. That's in my name. And that's in my children's name. She just told you it's their debt, not ours. Next time you get a tax bill, a utility bill, a credit card bill, or any other bill addressed to your name in all capital letters. But now they even play the lower uppercase. That's why she said all names been given back to her. So they can't play that game. Look at it very closely with understanding that one, the item is addressed to a Puerto Rican federal franchise estate trust doing business in your name and not you. The item is a billing statement or a billing summary or some other name, but never an actual bill. So technically, even the estate has not been billed. These billing statements are not denominated in dollars, except occasionally by mistake. The amount owed appears as a series of numbers, commas, and dots similar to that used to write dollars amounts, but there is no dollar sign and no words indicating the kind or form of money or currency that's supposedly owed. For example, your property tax bill will show up addressed to your name, and the statement will show that your name owes a number written like this: $6,955.43 for 2013, or that your name's house has a value of $258,990 according to the tax assessor's office. These are just the separately constructed series of numbers, dots, and commas designed to make you assume that these represent dollar amounts. Again, technically, not even the estate has been billed for anything. It's all constructive fraud based on Semitic deceit, illusion, and process of assumption, knowingly pursued under condition of non-disclosure. This is done on purpose with malice aforethought. Just like foreclosure, that's malice aforethought. The perpetrators are giving you notice that a bill related to the estate named after you exists, but they are actually and purposely preventing you from paying it. If they send a bill, you can either discharge it through the U.S. Treasury window at the office of any Federal Reserve Bank, or you could present it for payment under UNCITRAL and exchange it against your birth certificate, bond, or other assets held by the U.S. bankruptcy trustees in your name. This process of discharging debts, unlike using Federal Reserve notes, actually pays the bill. And that's why even when I paid off all the bills, in 2017, I made my own and wrote the number that they said with the dollars on, and I autographed it and said discharge. And they discharged on my debt that they said I had, which was actually they did. Which really was settling their books. That's why I ain't got no debt. And I still ain't lying to you. And since the entire game is about forcing you to indebt yourself, the perpetrators spare no effort to prevent you from discharging the bills related to their federal estate trust. Another reason they refuse to provide you with an actual bill is that what they are doing is a crime. He said they're going to confess and all is known. As long as they're sending these bill statements to a federal franchise estate trust, and that's why I said even the names they created after you are trusts, estate trusts. And they gave them all back to us. That means everything they hid in those gave back to us. That's why there is no debt, encumbrance, or any such thing for the American Israelite. As long as they're sending these billing statements to a federal franchise estate trust, they technically can't be accused of billing you, as long as they don't provide you with any actual bill. They can't be accused of false billing either. According to them, they don't know what you are talking about. What bill? We never sent that man a bill. We sent a billing statement addressed to a Puerto Rican estate trust that just happens to have the same name and address. So that's why they said all names and all forms have been given back to the people who call them Americans. So now they can't even say that no more, without any debt, encumbrance, any such thing. Who cares if we fully intend to force and encourage the living man to pay us with an IOU or owe us even more debt after he paid than when he started? Are you telling me that I don't owe taxes? How is that possible? It costs money to provide governmental services. If I don't pay my taxes, how will the schools be funded and the fire departments and libraries stay open? That's the question she wrote. The answer, she said, the fact is that all governmental services contracts are between states and other incorporated entities, not states and people. Technically, it's literally impossible for a living man or woman to owe any tax for any governmental service. And that's their promises for being here, to serve us. And that's why the Most High said, for those nations who will not serve you, I'm going to kill them. Why? Because you defraud his people. And that's why I said, wait on Yahweh and you should not be ashamed. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Isaiah 60:12-14. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come unto you, and the fir tree and the pine tree and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary. And I will make the place of my feet glorious. The sons of them that afflicted you shall come bending unto you, and all they that despise you shall bow themselves down at the sole of your feet. And they shall call you the city of Yahweh, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Remember that all valid contracts must be in kind. Corporations can only contract with other corporations. Living people can contract only with living people. The proliferation of trusts has been used as a vehicle, literally creating a commercial vessel capable of interfering with corporations entering the corporate contracts. The creation of these individual public trusts and their supposed obligations has been done without the knowledge, consent, and participation of the living people, merely upon the representation made in their behalf by third parties claiming to represent them, lawyers and unscrupulous politicians. Note that even the original equity contract, known as the Constitution for the United States of America, is between states and the government, being created by contract to provide the states with services, not the living people. We, the people, are only mentioned as the beneficiaries of the natural and inalienable rights, their assets held in national trust, and further outlined by defined by the Bill of Rights. We are not direct parties to this or any other governmental service contract. See, they own this land only to provide us with service. That's their purpose. And since they've been out there doing that, that's why the Most High said He's going to make them servants. And that's what He's going to be doing for eternity. As for how governmental services get paid for, your states are assemblies valuable and properly administered. They contain vast material assets that can be utilized to generate income more than sufficient to pay all governmental services. And this is, in fact, what all states do. They already generate more than enough income every year to pay for all governmental services. They simply keep track of their expenses and provide a billing statement addressed to your state in hopes that you will step forward and volunteer to pay a share of the expenses for them, so that their private for-profit corporation is enabled to operate without any expense and seize the entire profit for the sale and utilization and investment of your organic state's assets entirely for its own benefit. And that's why the Most High said, there's no lack for in Zion. And they already got over trillions of dollars in the treasury, not counting the rest of the world. That's why I said they're going to be bringing in their wealth into Zion. He said, for Zion, there should be no want. There should be no lack. Two different populations. Folks, there are and have always been two different populations here in America. Actual current federal employees, retirees don't count as active federal employees. And federal dependents, political asylum seekers, etc., who receive actual paychecks or unearned benefits from the federal corporations are owed discharge of all franchise debts via bankruptcy. The rest of us are owed discharge of the same franchise debts via probate action. The difference is that the probate action not only discharges debts accrued by secondary beneficiaries of our estates, the franchises operated in our names, it returns our land and our property back to us unharmed and fully restored. If you really are a federal employee or an unearned dependent, for example, Someone receiving SSI who never paid into or vested into Social Security, by all means, take the bankruptcy protection and run. But if you're not a federal employee or unearned dependent, claim your estate back. The debts will all go away just the same, but you will receive back the land, homes, and businesses and other things that are rightfully yours. It's that simple. And Yvonne Rents, the Roman Catholic post-private attorney. One more thing I'm looking for. All right, let's see. She said that we all have natural and unalienable rights, right? Because she's really talking about the American Israelite. I'm going to prove it to you. Why? Because a lot of them are in color, etc. Everything she's talking about is the American Israelite. She just put it in a certain way that you have to know who she's talking about. But the key is over 150 years ago. Black people, you've been conned by Yvonne Rents, Roman Catholic post-private attorney. Well, we've all been conned, but you've been conned more than the rest of us. From everything I've seen, Martin Luther King Jr. took half a loaf, a grant of civil rights, and that at least temporarily prevented recognition of the natural and inalienable rights actually owed to black people. But you ain't gonna receive it as black people. You're gonna be called by his name, the Most High's name, American. And he said, you are Israelite. Maybe he thought that half a loaf was better than none. Maybe he saw it as a stepping stone to eventually have the natural and inalienable rights of all people fully recognized and honored. Well, so we'll never know what MLK knew or what he thought about this issue. But certain other things are sure. It's certain that the Democratic Party, that so many black and colored people identify with and support, has in fact been primarily political opponents for decades. Look at the history. Look at the voting records. It was Democrats that engineered confirmed municipal citizenship on black people following the Civil War, effectively making them publicly owned slaves instead of privately owned slaves. It was Democrats who sustained or substituted civil rights for natural and inalienable rights too. Civil rights are merely privileges conferred by municipal Congress. They can be taken away from the municipal Congress on a whim. But your natural and inalienable rights come from the nature and nature's God called Yahweh. Think about it. You've been snookered. And you don't need municipal citizenship. It was conferred on you, but you never needed it. And if you knew what it entailed, you would never want it either. You can choose to exercise your birthright political status as Americans instead. So now she's telling you who the true Americans are. You can be truly free and have your natural and inalienable rights respected and protected. You can claim your own assets for your own benefit, like every other American. You simply need to know that you have that choice. And then you need to make it. This is called Civil Orders, July 4th, 2014. Issued to all members of domestic police forces, U.S. Marshal Services, the Provost Marshals, members of the American Bar Association, and the American Armed Services. I'm just going to read the portion talking about these people that they call African Americans. They call themselves black people, who are truly Americans, who the Most High calls Israelites. But he said you can't make them free, you can just tell them the truth, and they can choose for themselves. But as for me and my house, we are Americans, and we're Israelites. But it's up to them to honor me as the Father said, so I can cover them, so he can cover them. All those estates and estates erroneously believed to represent the Americans, states, and the American people, which were conveyed by fraud and legal deceit to the United States of America Minor, the corporation, and more recently to the city-state of the United Nations, are revenued without exception to geographically define American states and the American people, where they should remain in perpetuity as assets belonging to the rightful and lawful beneficiaries. All legal fictions and fiction entities, however structured, and named after the American states and American people, are returned to them and their control, free and clear of any debt, promise, encumbrance, or obligation alleged against them as a result of false claims made on their behalf by officers of the United States of America, Inc., and United States, Inc., about any foreign official operating the United States of America Minor or the United Nations city-state falsely claiming to represent them or have jurisdiction over them. We note that the current circumstances is in part the result of criminal acts engaged in 150 years ago, which resulted in the commercial enslavement of African Americans who were summarily claimed as a chattel back in U.S. government debt in the wake of civil war. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been a policy of the U.S. government, the corporation, or those who run the corporation, to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state among the nations of the world. Instead of freeing African Americans, the sum total result of the civil wars was a vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claims that have been made against the Americans and the American states people, the American states and the American people that we are dealing with today. She has told you that the true Americans are the ones they call themselves African Americans or black, but you really are American Israelites, called by the Most High's name, if you want to be free. But the truth is out, but you got to choose for yourself. The right to act comes with the responsibility to act. So let's get to it. This form right here. I crossed out customer, crossed out vacant. I wrote etymology online dictionary in possession. The verb possession is 9/10 of the law. Where I choose to receive what is mine by right as concerning mail or other things in order is 7208. The apartment number for delivery purposes of where I dwell. It says see reverse side. It said thank you, postmaster. I said you're welcome. And I printed my name, Anthony Madru Pooler Sr., and I owned the name. And I signed it, all rights reserved, dated 8/8/2023. See reverse. I object to all bad faith action. Then I said final judgment and civil orders, not limited to section 19 through 268. I'm an American Israelite by birthright. I object to all subjective terms and claims. I claim all my unalienable and natural rights in good faith only. Printed Anthony Madru Pooler Sr., and that goes for any form it's written in. Autograph Anthony Pooler, all rights reserved. And I'll put that back in to order according to Isaiah chapter 6. What is it? Listen. Chapter 9, verse 6 through 7. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be on his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counsellor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of it and peace there should be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order, and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of all law of hosts will perform this. I'm gonna end it on this one, the scripture here. Well, not I ain't gonna end it on this one, but this is Sealed Book of Mormon, chapter 3, verse 82. Therefore, the priesthood presidency of the Son of God belongs rightfully to the literal descendants of the chosen seed, to whom the covenant promises have been and will be made. And the same order that has always existed will exist until the end of the world. Therefore, Adam, the president of the high priesthood in his day, spread the gospel with Seth and came to confer priesthood on Enos, son of Seth, when he was 134 years old, on down to my time. And I'm in his order. That's my literal descendants. And based on everything they already confessed to, I'm going to go to the sealed portion, chapter 12. Verse 55, for it suffices me to say that we are the descendants of Joseph. Joseph of Egypt, the Israelite king. Sealed Book of Moses, chapter 4, verse 52 and 53. And now, with the purpose of the people of the covenant to no longer be deceived, when in the last days, yet before Enoch returned with your city to this land, the watchers who were driven out to the vicinity of the earth will send signs to the children of men with the promise of ending their diseases, their religions, and their false prophets, and the scriptures and their false messages, and provide them with an alliance, and thus, with the support of Satan, the ruler of the world, they will again come to be among you at the invitation of the rulers of the earth. And gradually they will enslave the sons of men again, except in Zion, where my only begotten will have coated his elect of power from on high to overcome the forces of the enemy and to rescue those who are loyal to me. As it is for this reason that I, Yahweh, will lead these exposed stones after the flood, so they may know for themselves that the earthly man has never had the capacity of erecting these old structures, but his dominators. And gradually they will enslave the sons of men again, except in Zion, where my only begotten will have coated his elect of power from on high to overcome the forces of the enemy and to rescue those who are loyal to me. All praises to the Most High. In the name of Yahweh, to order it.